5 to 10 minutes and let others will come. Okay. Good morning to everybody. Just still more 5 minutes. Give me. I'm trying to set the camera. So please be online, everyone. So I'll take the sessions right away. Okay. Yeah, good morning to everybody. So in the last sessions also we had a discussion on first semester syllabus, right? Everybody was there, and the same faculty, it's me that also going to understand the second semester topics. I'll explain the syllabus what you have. I think everybody have the books with you right now. अंदर दिख रहा books सुनना या अब सभी के पास books है, right? Is that my voice is audible to everyone? Hello.
Sir, your voice is audible.
Okay, fine then. So give me I mean, 1 minute so that I can share the syllabus to everybody so one can understand what are the topics which we are going to understand and everything. Okay. Sorry. Entire lab రావట్లేదా So good morning to everybody. Is it my voice is audible to everyone? Yeah. Hello.
Your voice is audible, sir.
Yeah. So welcome to the student of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. And today's syllabus, and welcome to second semester students of BA in a political science. This is English medium political science class. First, we are going to have discussion on syllabus. Okay, what is the syllabus and of BA second semester that we are going to have discussions on. Let's take it as, we have for this semester 5 units we have. Okay, 5 units we have for this semester, and so here the first unit was that political ideas. The first unit that was political ideas. Yeah, this is the second semester BA Political Science classes of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. And second unit was the liberty. Within the unit 1, the second topic was that liberty. And the third topic we shall understand about equality. And in the unit 2, we are going to have discussion on political ideas. One is rights, and another one we also understand about justice. The unit 3, which has political institutions, where in the first topic within the unit 3, we shall understand separation of powers according to theory of Montesquieu. Okay. And here we understand executive, legislature, and judiciary, and also we understand the judicial review and all of them, isn't it? And the unit 4 is about forms of government. Forms of government. Within that, we shall understand constitutionalism, type of constitution, classification of governments. Here we shall understand unitary government and federal government, presidential and parliamentary form of government. We all understand. The last but not least, fifth unit, we understand democracy, and within the democracy, we'll understand democratic forms of government, directed democracy devices, and also in the last topic, we shall understand about representative democracy, isn't it? All we have 5 units. Each and every unit was a very, very important for examination point of view. Is that clear to everyone? So let me explain the first topic of the session is that separation of power. That I am going to discuss from unit 3 and the 6th chapter. Okay, in the block 3, unit 6, that is separation of powers. I think if you have the book, you can also see in your books that is in separation of power. Go to page number 63. Okay, in a 63, we have separation of power topics. Okay, so let us build understand how separation of power is very important in order to understand the, this political institutions and all of them, isn't it? So go to the page number 63. 63, the chapter name was separation of power. The separation of power was totally, this theory which was developed by theory of Montesquieu. Montesquieu have discussed the concept of this separation of power. Yeah, we can go orderly. Don't mind that. Okay. So first we understand this topic,
Accordingly, we'll go, unit from next class onwards. Okay. So don't worry, we'll discuss on all of them, entirely all the 5 units without having any problem. Okay. So here shall have understanding of separation of power. I think if you see India's constitution, most of provisions are copy pasted from other nation. Like for example, in the Constitution of India, we have many provisions as like fundamental rights we have, and as we have fundamental duties, we have directive principles of state policy. In such a way, we have a lots of provisions in the Constitution of India. As India's constitution can be treated as a bulkiest and longest and lengthiest constitution, isn't it? So, as in keeping in view of that, in order to administrate our country, we have copied the system of this administration as per the theory of Montesquieu. Who is the theory of Montesquieu? The Montesquieu is a person name who have, explains about and how power should be distributed among one and other, isn't it? So the powers are, how it has been and distributed among the people. So is that according to the theory of separation. Theory of separation, will understand that today, as you can see that if any law is going to be prepared, there is a procedure. Like first, the organ of government, if you could see, there is a legislature. The second, if you could see, executive. And the third organ of the government, you can understand it is as a judiciary. So here, all the three were distributed one another. Isn't, let's say, for example, legislature has its own power in order to making of law. What legislature has to? Legislature will do merely making of laws, and it works on to how to make of the best law and how to make the state as a better state, isn't it? When it comes to the point of second organ of government, that was executive. The executive, what it does here is that it's separate. It is a division of powers. Okay, as it is, distributed the powers in the hands of executive. Whatever the legislature had been prepared the last, that it shall be executed in the hands of an executive. Okay, we have seen. Similarly, while making of laws, while executing of laws, if anything is going to be an disturb, okay, if anything is going to be a disturb, that it shall be comes under the checks and balances. The checks and balances which is going to be in the hands of judiciary. Like for example, if any government, if it is did a mistake while its preparations of the laws and all of them. So what I mean to say, the government of entire roles and responsibilities are being going to distribute among the three organs of the government. So those who have said this means we have copied such a system from other nations. One among the authors of makes us to understand how powers have been distributed among the one another. This was we understand in the theory of Montesquieu, isn't it? Theory of Montesquieu was a source to we can understand how powers are being distributed among the one and other, isn't it? So here and how powers are, going to be an understand. If you could see that, and as per your lesson, that it said in the introduction, okay, the theory of separation of powers is an important theory in the political science, where it makes you to understand how powers are being distributed among the one another, isn't it? So as if you could see in the historical background of this theory, I think who is called it as a father of political science? Who is denoted as father of political science?
Aristotle.
Very good. Aristotle is the father of political science, who makes his contribution entirely about and how to formations of the state. He said it about all the elements of the state, like there should be a people and a population, there should be a sovereignty, there should be a government, there should be a territory. All these four elements can make this formations as a state, isn't it? So if you could see in the Aristotle's and then his book, we shall understand that and how administration was it. See, for example, before the and Aristotle's, uh, before he invented a political science and before he defined the definitions of a political science, the administrations was entirely, it's in the form of dictatorship. Let's say, for example, if I could tell you how administration was there, like Greek administration. What was the status of the Greek administration before, the Aristotle invented a state method? Can anybody tell me that? How was the status of Greek and uh, Portuguese and Dutch administration? There was entirely, they used to rule the country as a dictatorship. There was no chance of distributing of powers from one another, isn't it? Entire the power which was under the control of one ruler, he used to handle entire and administrations in the Greek. So there was no chance that in the historical background, before implementation of the theory of separation, the state were used to follow the theory of divine as the powers. There was a one king was there who used to administrate the entire kingdom. He did not distribute any kind of a power in the hands of anybody. Okay. The one was there as in the administration who used to handle the entire the administrative thing. And it means that who was a lawmaker, we used to call, who was only the judiciary, and who used to take care of entire the thing. Okay. So all such things was under the control of this, and as you can say, Mr. Narendra, Hitler, as a such kind of an administration was in existence at that point of time. But soon after, what is the importance of the historical theory? What is the importance of the theory of separation in the sense? The power was not centralized in one hand. It's been distributed among the many hands. That is a system which we have seen after the theory of Montesquieu. Montesquieu have told us then how powers are being distributed among the one another. All such things we have discussed in the theory of Montesquieu. As if you could see, and what was the benefits of this theory of Montesquieu? Like, for example, if you see this a theory of, separation, if you take it as an example of UK, that is United Kingdom, USA, if you see the United States of America, okay, and similarly in India, and all these areas, which we could see that, in especially if you understand and if you imply this and if you imply this theory of separation, especially in an Indian point of view. Like, for example, in India, we have 3 levels of government. Okay. What was a government? Can anybody tell me? We have 3 levels of government in India as per the view of this theory.
Legislature, executive, and judiciary.
Very good. So we have no separation of powers, that is okay. But if you could see the government and levels in India, we have first national government, isn't it? That is a central government we can call. When it comes to the point of state government, every state has its own government. There's a state government. Similarly, despite the central and the state, there is also one more government that it is called it as local self-government. So here, and how it has been happened on the grounds of decentralization of power. If you could see that, and centralized and the national level, which is called as national level or state level government. In the local self-government, if you could say, all the 3 levels of the government have been distributed among the 3 levels. And how these powers have been, how these 3 levels of the government have been established in the sense is on the grounds of decentralization of power. So decentralization of the power, which we see after the theory of Montesquieu, isn't it? Theory of Montesquieu says that if a state, if a one government, if it is used the power, that it shall not be treated as a kind of as per the Montesquieu's rule. Why he said that a power should not be, centralized in one hand in the sense, for example, you think that what was the status of Greek when the powers was in the status of, when power was in the hands of one man? What was the status of the government at the time of before Montesquieu's implementation of theory of separation? Like, for example, if you could take it as in Greek, in a Greek, most probably the entire, administration was in the hands of one man who used to look after the entire administration. There were, who used to consider, who used to treat the people as like a puppets, and entire decision making, entire rules implementations was in the hands of the one-man army. You used to be considered as a one-man army. You used to take and single decisions for all the problem, isn't it? So when and the powers, if it is kept in a one hand, that it could lead to the dictatorship, isn't it? So Montesquieu says that if a power being centralized in a one hand or a one group of institution, that is not advisable for the better state. Because if power, if it is given to the one man, there should not be a chance of to probing, and there should be there should not be any chance of to, I mean, questioning or and anything such kind of the democratic measures must not takes place. So as in similarly, if you could give the power to the state also would become a monarch. They won't take any kind of an actions which is in a, rectifications of the people's problem. So as the power, if it could be in the hands of the one man, always it leads to the exploitations of the power. So in keeping in view of that, Montesquieu's ideas was that if you could powers, if it is distributed among the many of the organs or in the government, that it shall lead to the better government, that in every institution is going to be flourished in the right way. That is the main essence of this theory of separation. And also, if you could see, this was the status of in India. In India, if you could see, the power always has been, distributed and one to other organizations. Here, no one used to be treated as an, monarch, isn't it? You can't, and say that the power, on the basis of power using, no one can call in India as a despotic nature or monarch or anarchist, isn't it? Everywhere there was a people's voice can be considered while before using of a power. And this was the status of an India. When it comes to the point of an UK, if you go there, there is a parliament that we used to call, we call the parliament of UK as a Congress. Like say, for example, in a House of Commons, okay, I think you might have heard, House of Lords and House of Commons. There's a replica of India's parliamentary system in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. How we have a Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in our parliament. Similarly, in the UK's parliament and House of Commons and House of Lords would be there. See what was the power, how was the power distributed? How India, the separations of powers have been happened in India. Similarly, you can see the separation of powers even it is been and takes place in the UK also, United Kingdom. So there's, ministries will be there. Like, what we have the ministry system in India, which we have taken from, Britain itself. To say UK itself, isn't it? So as what I mean to say, England, we have taken from England, UK. This is a Westminster system. What we have, this Westminster system, we have derived to India's and administrative aspects as from the England. That's also been called it as an UK. So when you see this, the same systems in the United States of America, how our powers have been, distributed among the United States of America. The powers wasn't distributed among the, United States of America from president to other senates. Like we call in India as any member of the parliament shall be treated as a member of parliament. Or we can call it as an, if anyone become a member in the parliament, that it one and can understand it as a parliamentary, isn't it? So as in keeping in view of that, if you could take it as in the USA, United States of America, in the United States of America, the Senate was there. Like in the members of this, and US Congress was the members was, generally treated as an, Senates. Like there was a president who and did not centralize the power, but president who, also is in practice a theory of separation, like powers should be distributed among one another. There is a legislature, there was also legislature, there was also executive, there was also judiciary. But of course, the practicing of judiciary and the practicing of legislature might be different from India. Like for example, in India, if you could see, and judiciary is an independent body, isn't it? The independent, what does it mean independent of judiciary in the sense is while making and while taking of decisions, and the whole and sole authority would be given to the judiciary of India, but it shouldn't given to the any of an authority to legislature or executive in order to intervene into the matters of judiciary. Similarly, when it comes to the point of an UK and the different, why I'm giving this example to you that even after practicing of the theory of separation and after theory of separation, after distributing of the powers between all the three organs and all the three methods of that state, the way of practicing of the powers would be different from one another country. As in India, what kind of a practice we should be a mix? Like here, everything it should be like an independent. Judiciary is independent. Judiciary should not be intervened by the executive and legislature. So this could be a totally independent body, an autonomous body in the Indian judiciary system as per the separation of power. But when it comes to the point of United States of America, of course, there was a system that the powers should be separated from one another, but the way of practicing of the powers could be a different. Like say, for example, United States of America, the judiciary system which is inclined in the hands of the president, where president can, differentiate, the president can disturb the judgment which is given by the, the court of the United States of America. So there was no totally the discretionary power, rationality which it can be intervened by the, president in their court. Whereas it is a different from India. Even the president of India or prime minister of India cannot involve in the verdicts of the courts. Courts are all truly considered as autonomous bodies. No one can disturb them while it's taking a judgment. All of them, it comes under the, view, isn't it? So this was a system which we practiced truly in India as per this theory of separation. So theory of separations have brought this. What are the advantages of practice of the theory of separation? Theory of separation.
Me, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sir, you said that in United States of America, in the judiciary system, the president will also be included, and he has the right to change.
I'll keep it on earphones. One second, Nana. I will ask the doctor. Just a second.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, speak up.
Sir, you said that in United States of America, in the judiciary system, the president is also included, and he has the right to change the decision made by the other governments. So, like, sir, in India also, you said that in judiciary system, the prime minister will come. So, can't he change the decision?
No.
Because judiciary is having the power, and judiciary is independent also.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In India, while it's practicing of this separation of power, the Prime Minister of India does not have any kind of the power to intervene into the matters of Indian judiciary. Either it could be a verdict, either it could be any kind of a verdict-making authority. So President also, Prime Minister also would be treated as, a common citizen in front of the court, I said. Okay. Whereas President of United States of America has an every right to disturb the verdict of the court in the United States of America. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
No, let me tell you. What is your doubt, and you tell me so that I can, accordingly.
Sir, my doubt is the president is included in the judiciary system. He is also having some work, no, sir, in judiciary system.
Where it is in the United States of America.
Yeah, in United States of America, to see whether the laws are correct or not.
Yeah. The checks and balances, the power would be given to the President of United States of America after making judgment by the courts of them. Do you understand? But
yes, sir.
In India, Prime Minister or President cannot involved into the, making of any verdict of Indian judiciary. Because Indian judiciary truly it is considered as an autonomous body. It's an independent body. So where it is it's not aligned with the legislature and executive. Okay, legislature and executive could be differ from and kept away from the Indian judiciary. Like Supreme Court is a custodian of Indian Constitution. Supreme Court will not listen the words of anybody. Okay, even it is the president, even it is the prime minister. But in exceptional cases, the president, Indian president, has a few exceptional authority to intervene into the matters of Indian judiciary. Like say, for example, recall and reprieve and, pardon. Like for example, Sanjay Dutt, who have dragged under the case, who have applied for to get the relief from the custody. So who take it as a pardon. Okay, even if it is in the case of Salman Khan, even if it is in the case of most of them, after the judgment
and the Indian president has an authority to reduce the time of punishment, but he doesn't change the, judgment of the court. Do you understand my point?
Yes, sir. So, sir,
Okay.
judiciary have the power to change the laws made by legislature.
Yes, definitely. Judiciary has an every right to change the laws which is prepared by the legislature, because there is a word which we call judicial review. Okay.
Yes.
Indian judiciary has an authority which is called judicial review. The judicial review, what it meant? It follow the procedure, established procedure of law with the due process of law. For example, legislature, if it is makes a law which is, having some of an checks and balances. Like Parliament has made a law in India, if it is not favor in a people are facing a certain related problem, or they are suffering from, measures due after implementation of the law. Then, according to judicial power, the court has an every right to intervene into the matters of the legislature, isn't it? Because
Yes,
if
sir.
a people lost their rights, and the summarily the Supreme Court will respond and protect the rights of individual. That's the reason we can call Supreme Court is a custodian of Indian Constitution. Do you understand? Why do we
Yes,
call the
sir.
custodian of Indian Constitution? Means Supreme Court will have an every right to protect the citizens' rights in India.
Rights of
Isn't it?
citizens.
But legislature cannot disturb the authority of judiciary here. There is a one thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any prime minister, any, a member of parliamentarian truly is considered in the court as a common citizen. Okay. But,
Yes, sir.
and no one has a power to disturb them. But truly, when it comes to the point of, and some cases, as we have heard in, as like a rumors, there was, chances of to that in involving the some prime ministers and the council of minister to, disturbing the judgment of the Supreme Court by influencing the judges and by influencing the chief judges, as commonly we heard it. But there is no implicit and explicit and provision in the constitution that the legislature can directly have proximate with the judiciary of India, because Indian judiciary is totally autonomous organization, isn't it?
So, sir,
You
only the
understand?
members of judiciary have the right to change
Yeah.
the law. Okay, sir.
Yes. Any law making in a judiciary, it's all the powers given to the judiciary only. In order to changing of any judgment, even the powers have been given to the only judiciary.
Yes,
And
sir.
also the judiciary has also the power to change the law which is prepared by the legislature also. But legislature doesn't have any kind of a right to intervene into the matters of verdict of the court.
Yes,
Do you
sir.
understand my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
So this is what, and comparison, if you go on the comparison between the one another country, okay, like for example, in UK, one system of theory of separation. If you go to the United States of America, of course, the power are being, distributed among the one another, but the while after separation of the powers, the practicing of the power would be different from one another, isn't it? This is what. And also there is a criticism on the theory of separation. What kind of a criticism would be there on the theory of separation means, while separating of the powers, like if you could see in your book, there is this, exactly it is given a criticism on theory of separation, critical evolutions, if you could see that, that, and this, and sometime the theory of separation will also goes in exploitative manner. For example, say the powers, if it is transferred in the hands of somebody like legislature to execute, like for example, a judiciary has a power to limit the lawmaking procedure. Okay, when it has a power to law limiting of a legislature, the legislature may fear. Okay, legislature may fear to bringing the new laws. That is also one of the, disadvantages of the practicing of the theory of separation in India, isn't it? So this what, in the small topics that it be related to the theory of separation. And now we'll understand the second topic in the same unit. It's about an executive system. Okay, executive system in the 74 page number immediate after this. What is the executive system? How we could understand that? First I'll try to give you the example. What is the meaning of this an executive system? For that, you should understand first what is legislature. Okay, theory of separation after that. And you must understand, and in India, we practice the theory of separation. Okay, theory of separation, it's been in existence in India, and that every,
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, please can you explain point number 6 from critical evolution?
What
Page
is that?
number 66.
Page number 66, what is that?
Point number 6. It is
Okay,
from the
point
topic critical evolution.
Critical evolution. In the critical evolutions, if you could see in a detail, we should see the how powers should be distributed among them. In here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all the points are there. The sixth point, which says that doctrine of separation of powers, and it can be organized the basis of complete separation of legislative, executive, and judicial function. What it does here is that the separation of powers would give the a right process to the government how to make the laws, how to break the laws, and all of them. Let's say, for example, theory of separation in the sixth point, as you have asked, that it tells you about that doctrine of separation of power. Doctrine of separation of powers tells exclusively that how powers are being distributed in India, all the three organs of government, like legislature, it has its own power. According to separation of power, it is given a power to legislature, only making of law, means only legislate the law. Okay, as what power has distributed in the hands of executive, only implementation of law. Say, for example, what is the authority of legislature mean? Legislature can only make the laws. Okay, it doesn't have any right in order to execution of law. But after making of the law, who will execute such laws in the sense means this is given the power, this is transfer the powers according to separation of powers to executive system. Okay. So when here the powers are very confined, the doctrine of separation of powers says that powers are being confessed and confined as per the organs of the government. If legislature makes the law, after making of the laws done, the second organ will activate that it can execute the laws. When it once, judiciary, what it does, it is given in power in the hands of judiciary, only checks and balances on legislature and executive. Say, for example, while making of law, legislature, if it committed mistake, okay, that it can be questioned by the court. Similarly, the time of implementation of the laws, if somebody commit a mistake, that it also can be questioned by the court. So checks and balances power it has given to the judiciary. Here, the doctrine of separation power explicitly makes us to understand what powers it is given in all the three organs of the government. Okay, legislature, what it cannot do, and it can't do anything which is related to executory thing. Legislature, executory thing, what it can do, what it cannot do, and anything which is related to making of law. What are the authorities as doesn't given to, did not give to them in judiciary? It cannot make any sort of a law which is related to the legislature. It cannot do any kind of an implementation which is related to executive. But it has only the power to checks and balances on legislature, checks and balances on and executive. Do you understand that sixth point? This was written clearly in the sixth point in the page number 66. Do you understand?
So, sir, what is the criticism in this?
No. Criticism is no. Critical in the sense means critical evolution means it is an in-depth analysis. And I said the criticism is in a different way. Criticism in the sense, how, this are, shows impact to implementation of separation of power. Critical evolution means in detail explanation. It's not a criticism. Okay.
Okay.
So here all the 6 points tells about an in-depth knowledge about an implementation of separation of power. And I said extrally that in extra that is an what kind of criticism also there in the separation of power. Let's say, for example, the separation of power and given an authority even to the judiciary to checks and balances on legislature and executive. If keeps on some time, the legislator have to make the laws in favor of the people. The in favor of the people, whatever the laws are there, sometime it could not comes under the purview of a constitutional authority. So if anything does not come under the constitutional authority, which it can be questioned by the judiciary, as per the authority of judicial review. So the judicial review limiting the authority of a legislature and executive, then and it would become one of the factor as disadvantages of implementation of separation of power. But majoritarianly, the separation of power would bring the idea of democratic system, isn't it? Like instead of it isn't implementing the despotic nature or monarchical method of law making or law implementation. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So next one, executive. I'll make it, after this understanding this separation of power, the small topic, one need to understand about and how powers are being utilized in-depthly by executive system, isn't it? Executive system is a system who look after the responsibility to implementation of the law, which are prepared by legislature, isn't it? For example, today, as you have seen the Nirbhaya Act, who prepared it and actually who composed the law? Yes. Yes, somebody, asking the questions to me and somebody is disturbing. Can you ask? Hello.
So tell me once again.
No, Mr. Rakesh, tell me. What is that? You want to know the meaning of executive?
Sir, tell me once again.
Which one I should tell once again? See, separation of power after. Okay.
Sir?
Yes, please.
Sir, you were about to tell about legislature, sir, before explaining executive.
Yes, I will explain. No problem, because as per our lesson, and there is an executive. However, I'll explain even the legislature also.
Thanks.
Listen to me now here. Okay. Yes. What happened? Any questions asked?
Sir, you was talking about Nirbhaya Act. Who introduced that?
Yes. See, this is an example of executive. Okay. Nirbhaya Act have been prepared by Parliament. Okay. So, for example, you are all the member of parliamentarians in the House. You have prepared the laws. Preparing laws has comes under the legislature, isn't it? So after making of law, after making an everything act, like for example, after discussion over from the Parliament, if the bill is sent to the President's house, okay, President's office, he will sign on the bill, he will assent on the bill, then it become an act. Okay. Then to that limit, legislative responsibility is over. Okay. To making law, to elevating an act from the procedure starts from bill to act, and it's all of the procedure which is in the hands of legislature. Think that after Nirbhaya Act made it by legislature, who is a responsible person to execute it? That means implement it in among the society. Who will take the responsibility? So, for example, Parliament have made it an act. And then to that, the responsibility of Parliament have been completed. Who is going to execute them?
Parliament.
Executives.
Executives. Okay. It's an executive will implement the laws through the bureaucratic system. Here we have a types of executive system. Political executive means, nominal executive, permanent executive, such system we have. In this one, any laws are being prepared or any acts are being prepared by the legislature. The responsibility of executive is that to implement them to which it can reach up to the people, right from Delhi to Gully. Okay, right from grassroots level to up to the national level, the policy should be implemented among the society. Today, as we see that, and any abuses happens against the women, who will take care of that? The police department will take the responsibility to prove the case and to investigate and to punish them accordingly on the grounds of how much what mistakes has been committed. So who has been implementing the laws of this Nirbhaya in the sense? In police department, it comes under the executive system. It comes under the permanent executive system, isn't it? So as we have, and how many types of executive systems in India? Okay, anything which can be implemented in terms of a, executive system. Who are, executive that? Let's say, for example, of, executives are bureaucrats, we call the example, okay, ministers, and all of them, they comes under the executive part. First, you have to understand how many types of executive system and how many types of executives are there in India. Once again, I'll tell you now, names of an executive. Okay. See, one is a parliamentary executive, another one non-parliamentary executive. And another one is the political executive and permanent executive. Real executive and nominal executive. Someone is in sharing the board, and don't try to share the board, and please off that. Close it, okay? Otherwise, I'll stop the permission to everybody. Harika Raj, close the screen sharing quickly. Otherwise, I'll remove from you. Just closed it. 1 second. Okay, fine. See,
so we have to remember these all types of executive,
yes,
parliamentary,
definitely. If you do
non-parliamentary.
not remember, you can't understand that, and it's very important as being a part of the examination. Okay. So you just think types of executives are, once again, I'll explain that. Political and permanent executive, real and nominal executive, single and plural executive. Let's say the meaning of this executive system one by one. I said single and plural executive. Okay. What is a single and plural executive here? Okay. And the meaning of that, based on the number of people that exercise the executive power, it can be classified under single and also plural. We just see that single is a term which makes us to understand one. Plural is a word which makes us to understand more than one. If power, if it is used in the hands of, one. Likewise, parliamentary form of government, if you could see, the executive power is mostly controlled by the Prime Minister through the Ministers of Council, isn't it? And also at the same time, when it comes to the point of a plural executive system, 2 or more executives and willpower authority will be given to them. The example, if you could see that in Sparta and Greeks, was the 2 different kingdoms which used to control the power of the state. But we do not find out the plural executive system. For example, see, in India, if Prime Minister, okay, in India, Prime Minister resigns his position, what would be the status of Council of Ministers? Say that, for example, if Prime Ministers, due to some reasons, have been submitted resignation, if it is accepted by them, then what would be the positions of the Council of Ministers over here? No one. It's automatically dissolved that and deprive the ministry. So if entire power, if it is, hand executions, if it is controlled by them, that it shall be called it as a single one-man army who can execute and all those things, that it shall be considered as a single executive system. For example, if powers are being distributed among the more than 1 or more than 2, that it shall be called it as a plural executive system. Okay, that's we generally the instance example which we could take in an ancient Greek city states. There was instances of the government plural executive system which we can see. One is in Sparta and Athens. There was a 2 thing. Okay, so there's actually that it exists in the plural executive system, isn't it? When it comes to the point of hereditary and elective system, like, if any executive, head of the state, if it comes through the hereditary method, let's say, for example, what is hereditary? Can anybody tell the meaning of that in hereditary?
Comes from the generation.
Very good.
Okay.
Genes are, bloodly relations. If anyone who comes into the power through the bloodly relation, that it shall treat it as a hereditary. If any person who possesses the power through the bloodly relation, that it can be called it as an, hereditary power or a hereditary executive system. Can you tell me the best example for the hereditary executive system in the world?
Rajiv Gandhi.
No. In India, we truly practiced Next, elective executive system. Can Rajiv Gandhi come as
Queen
it is without an
Elizabeth.
election in the power? Can Rajiv Gandhi become a prime minister
Queen Elizabeth,
without
sir.
election or with election? When Elizabeth
In the Mughal Empire, the son used to get the power from their father.
England, most probably England, we see the second till that. Yeah, it is true. When you go back to the dynasties, most of them which used to, Mr. Surendra Yadav, that was right, and nepotism was a fine. So this was, I mean, a kind of an hereditary. Those who come into the power, those who come into the executive system through the bloodly relation, one after one. Say, for example, father lost the power, his son is coming to the power. Okay, his son will come into the power. So that it shall be treated as under the, I mean, a kind of hereditary system. As in, others are, is that my voice is audible to everybody now?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
your voice is clear.
Elective executive system. It is true. An elective executive system. You know, if any executive would come into the power, like say, for example, prime example of this elective executive system. See, all the prime minister can come through the bloodly relations, or else and they go for the election and they get elected by the people. How they will come into the power?
They go for the election and will be elected by the people.
Yes. So any executive system, if it is set up in a state, if through the elective method, through the elections, if we come into the power, that it shall be comes under the purview of an elective executive system. Take it as an example of India. Take it as an example of United States of America. And all these example, which we can treat it as that elective, I mean, executive system. Hope you understand the difference between the hereditary and elective executive system. Okay. And
Yes,
similarly,
sir.
when it comes to the point of this in parliamentary, do you understand that? Do you have any doubt in between that?
No, sir, no doubt.